Captain America: Civil War is the long-awaited and much-hyped sequel to what is arguably the best-made movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, The Winter Soldier. Notice I said arguably best. My personal favorite is still now, and I think will always be, Guardians of the Galaxy, but I digress. As the subtitle might tell you, this one is very loosely based on the Mark Millar comic event of the same name. As we join the movie, Cap and his team of new Avengers are attempting to stop Crossbones, the Hydra agent who got himself burned at the end of the last Cap movie. While trying to stop Crossbones from making off with a dangerous biological weapon, the youngest and most unpredictable member of the team, Scarlet Witch, ends up accidentally causing a massive international incident that spurs the US government, including new Secretary Thunderbolt Ross, into trying to pass legislation that would bring the Avengers under direct control of the government. This new sweeping legislation finds an unlikely ally in the form of Tony Stark, who, much like in the comics, is feeling a massive amount of guilt over the lives lost in the last handful of MCU movies. It's also made very clear returning from superheroing in Iron Man 3, only to pick it up again in Age of Ultron, has wreaked major havoc on Tony's personal life, and maybe, just maybe, being Iron Man has become every bit the coping mechanism the other bad habits Tony has collected is. In fact, there's even a point in the movie where Tony basically says, "I can stop being Iron Man anytime I want, I just don't want to." Things are further complicated when a UN meeting to discuss the new superhero accord is seemingly attacked by Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. This means Steve Rogers, Captain America, is forced to choose between his best friend and last ties to his old life, his new teammates, the country that bears his name, as well as the world that he has come to protect. It's an impossible choice that ends up splitting the Avengers right down the middle. These are all very heavy issues, and perhaps what Civil War the movie gets right that the comics sort of dropped the ball on is that both sides have very valid points, and no one is demonized. Even though this is a Captain America movie, his group isn't automatically the right one. And if all of this makes the film sound more like Avengers 2.5 than Captain America 3, then I would say you're only half right. The emotional weight is very much on the shoulders of Steve Rogers, and Chris Evans turns in easily one of his best, most layered performances to date. It's also interesting to note how in many ways Civil War feels like the truer successor to the original Avengers movie, yet for reasons I don't want to spoil here and now, Civil War could only exist with Age of Ultron preceding it. What's crazy is even after everything has been revealed with the mysterious shadow villain and the heroes know what's up, all the anger, fear, and paranoia that is built up over the last couple movies just can't be put back in the bottle once it's been uncorked, so they really earn the fighting when it finally happens. You know what, I'm this far into the video and I've just realized I haven't even mentioned what's new yet. Joining the cast of heroes this time around is Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther, who after his father is killed, he vows to hunt down the Winter Soldier personally by donning the ceremonial armor of his people. Panther has an awesome arc in this movie that does an excellent job getting all of his origin stuff out of the way, while also establishing this guy as a major player in the universe of these movies and as someone who could easily go hand to hand with anyone in the cast and win. Boseman is regal out of the costume and positively savage while in it. This guy is going to be a big deal, I can just tell. Also, I don't know if anyone else felt this way during the movie, but when you see Black Panther's retractable claws on his costume, I couldn't help but chuckle to myself and go, the movie's saying to ya, Wolverine, who's that? Never heard of him. Now, who else is new in this one? Oh yes, a little independent character you may have heard of once or twice before, the Spider-Man, I think he's called. Nah, seriously, all jokes aside, from the first second Tom Holland jumps on screen and opens his mouth, I just knew this guy was the one to finally capture teenage Spider-Man like no other movie has. He's nebbish, nerdy, poor, super funny. He's everything you could want out of a movie Spider-Man. He also gets most of the laughs in a Marvel movie that, because of the subject matter, ends up being a lot more dour and serious. And when the battle lines have been drawn and all these characters finally meet up for the big airport fight scene you've seen in all the trailers, it is positively electric. The Russo brothers have once again brought their A game to the action department. No one is going to be able to top this fight scene for a very long time. There are so many characters on screen at once, with so many different powers and so many personality types, and yet somehow, miraculously, everyone gets to share the screen and no one feels like they're being buried. Everyone is useful, and because we've spent 12 movies with these characters, getting to know them, getting to like them, laugh with them, you truly do feel a twinge bad that they're fighting each other at all. Another thing this movie does great that I was not expecting is how it takes things from the comics like Tony getting guilted by a grieving mother during Cap's famous speech about not moving, but reinterpreting them and have them make sense in the context of this new movie. Civil War also deserves a special note on its finale. What begins as a fake out with our shadow villain, who much like Iron Man 3's The Mandarin, by which of course I mean he is very interesting and works very well in the movie, but people are going to be mad at the fact that he is an in-name only version of a famous comic book villain, quickly grows into something much more when Cap is forced to break Tony's heart. Now, if you've been paying attention like I have, I'm sure you already know what I'm talking about here, but if you don't, I'm not going to spoil it for you. All I'll say is they take a very specific blink and you'll miss it note from Winter Soldier and turn it into the whole crux of the final fight. Now, I already touched on the villain issue. I'm not going to say this is another Marvel case of the villain feeling underutilized or underwritten. Quite the opposite, in fact. This guy was given a lot to do. Were there other issues? Yeah, I mean, you could argue that the middle was a little sluggish here and there while we wait for everyone to recruit respective members of their team, but hey, when this means we get to spend more time with Black Panther, Ant-Man, and the new Spider-Man, it's hard for me to complain, personally. On the whole, if you couldn't tell, I really enjoyed Captain America Civil War. It works on so many levels. It works as a Captain America sequel that once again sees Steve's difficult journey into the modern age. It works as an Avengers sequel that raises the stakes on the hero's actions and leaves them reeling for future installments to come. It's a movie that justifies the existence of the Marvel shared cinematic universe. Quite frankly, it couldn't exist if all these movies weren't interconnected, and it pays off a bunch of hanging plot threads. And perhaps more than any other Marvel superhero movie to date, it all just felt so very effortless on the filmmaker's part, like they have this down to a fine science now or something. What I guess I'm trying to say is this is yet another gem in the ever-expanding comic book movie crown, and a great early start to the summer movie season. I'm sure you never needed me to tell you this, but hey, go out and see it. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching my newest video. I hope you enjoyed it, and while you're here, why not check out another video I have on offer, or maybe if you're feeling in a supportive mood, you want to like or subscribe. And if you want to support the creation of more videos just like this one, then please by all means check out the Kate Joel Patreon. A little bit goes a very long way, and I will see you all next time.